Good evening, forest friends, and welcome to the digital premiere of my solo show. The Sleeping Princess is a dark fairy tale of love, trauma, and resilience. As such, it engages with themes that may be distressing for some viewers, so do check the content notes in the description if you think you might need that. This is a recording from the 2018 production, taken live and intended for archive. As such, it's slightly imperfect. I'm still very, very excited to share it with all of you as part of the PBH Virtual Free Fringe 2021. As this is the Free Fringe, admissions are open, but donations are welcome. If you'd like to support my work, you can go to ko-fi/RobinRedHooded and leave a donation. If you're watching this live, there's still time to register for the post-show Q&A on Zoom, featuring me and the amazing Faye Roberts. There's a link in the description to Eventbrite where you can register and get the link to the chat. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Long ago, when the world was fresh, there was only night and day. And then, when humankind began to understand the seasons, day split into four: spring, summer, autumn, winter. Night remained, ancient and eternal, and she came to love her four sisters greatly. But in the land where lay their seat of power, a new religion came, with a calendar that overwrote the four. Night watched her sisters split into 12, forget themselves, prop up the traitor king who sundered them, approve the newly written histories, which told of 12 kindly godmothers at the Saviour's nativity. And so she swore revenge. As she had lost hers, so the king would lose his family.
Once upon a time, in the days when wishing worked and fairies walked the land like lords and ladies, a princess was born. Her father, King Edwin of Osfrith, named her Rosamund, but you may know her better as Briar Rose, the Sleeping Beauty. At her christening, 12 fairy godmothers all gave the baby girl gifts: beauty, grace, luck, and other such virtues they deemed appropriate for a princess. But just as the last fairy made ready to grant her the gift of kindness, the night fairy burst through the door in rage. Swearing vengeance on King Edwin's line, she cursed the princess to prick her finger on a spinning wheel on her 16th birthday and die. So the last fairy used her gift to change this fate. The girl would not die, but lie in enchanted sleep for 100 years, until a prince came to wake her with true love's kiss. The king ordered that every spinning wheel in the kingdom be burnt, but when the time came, the night fairy made sure there was one waiting, the point still wet with her own dark blood. And so Briar Rose pricked her finger and fell asleep. The last fairy's magic had saved her life. But no magic is perfect, and it all comes with a price. Briar Rose slept, and for 100 years, as a hedge of thorns overwhelmed the palace, she dreamed. There's something that chokes you, a weight on your chest. So you open your eyes and see this. Red flowers, unfurling, they drip with your blood, as briars curl forth from your ribs. Roots reach to your belly, vines dig through your veins, and everything pulsing and trembling and thick as it drinks you, drains life from your heart. And then sometimes you're running. Your blood spatters black on the star-silvered track, and every fresh cut makes another rose grow. The castle is thick with them now. There is nothing to save you. You cannot get out. The sickness you feel in your blood, in your skin, will drag you down deeper each time. Until his lips against yours like petals, soft breath on your face. You lean into the kiss, grip his hair fiercely, grateful, desperate, free. And now you have been rescued, and the castle stirs around you. Lazy days of wedding planning stretch before the eye. Politics and paperwork. The crown has risen from its slumber, but who now will show allegiance? Whose crops will fill your palace storehouse? And most pressingly for you, can the prince convince his father he should marry this lost princess, risen ghost-like in the past? You doubt your dowry. Who knows how currency has changed, what riches you have left without your tithing fiefdoms. But Prince Leon, his gazes never waver from your silken skin, your glittering eyes, your rosebud lips. You are giddy with love and relief. But that night, as you drift in your duck feather bed, your eyes close. Just a blink and you're back. Feet red hot from running, you rip through the vines as the nightmares will back to the start. By the morning, you've grown calmer. Just a nightmare, only natural, but you watch the wall of ancient briars and you shudder at their thickness, sharpness, and most of all the roses, red and sickly sweet they bloom. The court physician has a potion, guaranteed to help you sleep. Every night you'll drink it deeply. Keep the nightmares from the door. It doesn't work. If anything, they're stronger, clearer, and the daytime seems to dream. Your parents worry. You assure them by your wedding night you will be cured. The wise woman in her cottage might have the thing you need. There's always been a witch there, waiting with her roots and bottles, herbs and potions, charms that kill or cure or soothe. You'll go to her. And the draught that she gives you will keep you awake. No more roses and vines to grow fat on your blood, no more nightmares. You vow not to sleep. The thick amber liquid that burns in your throat is the fuel that propels you as you pace every night by your bed, watching the garden and staring in silence at the briars that refuse to be cut. You've sent your best woodsman, but there's something about them. Their bark blunts a blade like no else. But no matter, you're free, and that's all that counts. That these nightmares will plague you no more. Until you drop guard and you sleep. In the blink of an eye, you've gone back. Again, you're trapped running through boundless black briars, through roses that rip at your skin. And as your blood drains, it starts rising around you. And you cry, and you choke. The red lake overwhelms you. But at last, with a gasp, you come back. Every morning you're exhausted, whether from enduring nightmares or the effort to not sleep. Beneath your eyes are creeping shadows. On your cheeks the roses fade. So Each morning at the mirror, fill the cracks and hide the pain. Dazed, you wander through the castle, thinking nothing here seems right. Servants, parents, they look older than they ought to be. It's slight but unmistakable. And your youth is marred not just by terror, but by time. You grasp in horror at your face in the mirror. Your once taut skin is loose and sagging. Your glossy hair is turning grey. Can no one see it? Who else has noticed? The prince says nothing, even on your wedding day, and so you privately give thanks for cochineal, white lead, all that hides your creeping age. You have never learned how to be anything but beautiful. You have never known how to be anything but young. You realize it's magic. That 100 years is a lot to keep off, and maybe one gift couldn't do it, so to magic you'll turn once again. Bribed from the wise woman, pried from your libraries, dragged from the depths of the tomb. The spells that can save you. This time not just from sleep, but from age. At first it seems easy. Bathing in deer's milk, wearing flowers picked under the moon, but the more it sustains you, the more it demands, exacts in blood and bone and stranger promises. Swallow 10 raw starlings' hearts a day. Burn a consecrated thing and drink its ashes with wine. Anoint your breast with the blood of one who once trusted you. You, withering at 16, will offer anything at the altar of youth. But the nightmares, the magic, they feed on each other. You parade through the day, unparalleled perfection, but each morning it's harder to wake. And then one day, you don't. At least not in the morning. You wake and you're speaking, you're sewing a sampler, alert and alive, fully dressed. And you cannot remember what path you took here. The only thing you recall is the dream. And so your days dissolve to fragments. Dreaming and delirious, you sometimes wake and find yourself picking apples, giving a speech, eating dinner, making love, sealing treaties. And you remember none of it. Your body moves through life unsteered. Its choices might be yours, but how would you know when you don't remember? All the world is grey and brittle. Your parents, vague and rheumy-eyed. Only the dreams, blood red and vivid, feel at all like you're alive. Sometimes you surface. Weeks have passed. Your husband's gaze is all approval, your face perfect in the looking glass. And you catch snatches of the changes that befall your castle home. Mortar crumbling, servants dying, gardens blighted. Nothing grows except the briars. All that lives is too soon old. Except the prince. He needs no magic. His youth still mirrors yours. Until One day, you wake and see him, sprawled across your marriage bed. In his chest, a wicked dagger. The sheets, your hands, a brutal red. Sobbing and shaking, you falter, collapse, as a scream echoes round in your head. Was this you? Have you wrought this? You taste blood on your lips. And it's his. Scramble up, scrub clean your skin. No time for grieving. You must leave, and quickly. Take what treasures you can carry. Flee this place, this husk, this hollow, and pray the nightmares will not follow. And so Briar Rose fled. From her guilt, from her fear, from her decaying home and its wall of thorns. And as she left the gates, behind her there was a great crack as the battlements began to fall. Without the last fairy's gift to her, holding off time like a dam, all those 100 years came crashing down on the palace at once, and everyone left there turned into dust. Almost everyone. Prince Leon in the rubble bleeding out, but his is a story for another time. It was not long before Briar Rose found somewhere new to call home. The young king of Valdreich, recently widowed, took pity on her and invited her to stay with him. He knew who she was, of course. In fact, in the intervening 100 years, his kingdom had annexed much of her kingdom's territory, and the political situation had been delicate when the royal household woke up. Many of the king's advisors encouraged him to marry her, as it would make his claim to her land entirely legitimate. Others counselled him against it, reminding him that as he had not produced an heir by his first wife, to take a local bride would breach the marriage treaty with the Eastern horsefolk. Others yet warned him against her entirely, believing that the fairy curse might still lay upon her and could bring destruction here too. But the young king married her, for he was charmed by her beauty and grace, and he was far from the only one. The new queen is a witch, they say. Or rather, do not say, but mutter, whisper. They think to say it openly risks death. Yourself, you're not so sure. Women are mysterious to you. The alchemy of paint and scent through which fine ladies form their faces seems no less like witchcraft to your eyes. You are a simple man, and you remember cunning women, midwives, herbalists. All were better than the warning tales tell. If she's a witch, she's one of those. The queen is fair and just and kind and oh so very fair. Those midnight eyes and chestnut locks and blossom skin. The fairest of them all, you think. And she must know her worth. She spends so long each day before her mirrors, you think her beauty leaves her hypnotized. When at last a baby comes, the king and queen delighted, you wonder at how strange it looks. Mother's cheeks are rosy, the father's brow is acorn tan, but the daughter, translucent, white, black hair, black eyes, both drinking in all light that lands on them. Only the mouth holds colour, bright red, reminds you of a wound. But the child is sweet enough, if very shy. You barely see it in the dining hall or near the fireside until a brace of years have passed. Instead, you spy her playing in the orchard, making balls of snow as if her name, Snow White, foretold this. Years pass. Her bones spring up, her flesh fills out. The eyes of stable hands and kitchen boys begin to stick to her as she walks. She's barely 13 when the Queen calls on you. Huntsman, comes her voice through the door. Huntsman, I am ill, but you may save me. Approach. The Queen's room is dark and musty. Curtains drawn, incense in the air, candles ring her shadowed bed. Is that a spinning wheel? Some old wives' charm, no doubt, a simple spell to drive the sickness out. But whatever you had expected, it was not this. I need her heart. Take her to the woods. Pick berries. When she is unaware, you strike. Bring back her heart in this. A leather pouch. You nod. You'll take the task. But in the woods, Snow White turns to see you as you raise the knife. She trembles, cries, light glimmers in the wide pools of her eyes and hides behind crossed arms as though she's not the wit to run away. Pity stays your hand. You know it must. No order or entreaty is enough. Run, you tell her softly. Flee both far and fast. The forest thick with peril, but you deserve a chance. She stares at you, eyes wide, a deer before your bow. Then stumbles, runs. You watch her go. When you return, you are afraid. You knock quietly. Come in. Lock the door behind you, the Queen whispers from her shadowed bed. She seems shrunken, overwhelmed by bolsters and brocades. This illness has come on so fast, she looks not far from death. The wild boar's heart she snatches from your pouch. Her teeth sink in, blood sprays her skin. She licks each spatter clean. Her wild eyes focus, turn to you. Huntsman, this is not the heart of Snow White. Do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I would not know my daughter? The Queen rises like a wraith. She grips your neck with fingers strangely strong. You have no idea what you have done, but you will pay in blood and then in suffering. Her nails pierce your skin. She leans in for something not unlike a kiss. She drinks until you're dizzy, drops you to the floor. The air around is full of magic, your desperate heartbeat drowning out the world. And then, the Queen, her face she were just 16. Let the wolves finish what you could not, and your faithless spirit wither and rot. And then it all goes black. Unlike her mother, Snow White had not been welcomed into the world with pomp and festivities. There was no celebration, only relief. And perhaps this was for the best if Briar Rose's experience with christenings was anything to go by. If only that last fairy had not allowed all her sisters to give their gifts first, she might have succeeded in granting Briar Rose the gift of kindness. But as it was, Briar Rose had been left to learn kindness for herself, and her pain and fear had drowned out the voice of every teacher. Much later, when time began to obscure the true stories into myth, people would say that Snow White was the daughter of the king's first wife, and the wicked queen who ordered her death was her stepmother. No. Snow White was very much Briar Rose's flesh and blood. Now, we left Snow White fleeing into the great forest, which, as every child in Valdereich knows, is ruled by a powerful fairy, the Green Lady, the Lady of the Woods. There were some who called her a hideous crone, others a wanton temptress. They spoke of how she taught witches their ways with herbs, how she dallied with fairies and mortals alike. But those who revered her spoke of her wisdom, her laughter, and above all, her compassion for the small and lost. And it was indirectly thanks to her that Snow found somewhere safe to stay. A small cottage, hidden well from prying eyes, inhabited by 7 little men. They invited her to stay with them, on condition that she do all their household chores. She agreed instantly, seeming not to mind this very traditional division of labour. The dwarves learned little of her, but she learned this of them. They were all illegitimate sons of the Lady of the Woods, by different fathers. And there was one dwarf in particular, the youngest, a bashful fellow, who took a shine to their shy, mysterious new housemaid. You contemplate your guest. Her garb when she arrived was ripped to rags, but the fabric rich and fine. She folds the scraps away into a drawer. You never see her open it again. This is not a place for cloth of gold. She is a little taller than you all, but you are broad. Your clothing will suffice. She wears your tunics, oak moss woven by forest sprites to warm green softness, and a cloak of leaves. You wonder sometimes what she used to be. She will not speak of it. Among you there are guesses. A bastard child like you. A casualty of politics. A noble's daughter lost among a skirmish. You've heard that war is brewing. This girl won't be the last to run for refuge in your woods. But days roll on to months, and winter thaws, and peace remains unbroken. She blossoms like the snowdrops that now line the borders of your home. One night when you come home, you find her slumped against the door, asleep or dead. Atop her tunic, tight-laced stays and bright red ribbons, a corset in Calvernian style. You shake her shoulders, another splashes water on her face, a third slips the lacing, and she emerges, gasping and delirious. She talks of blood, roses, a castle, a woman selling bodices. You have never seen her like this. You put her to bed and later bring her soup. Next morning she's well as ever. Later, in a sentimental moment, you think of that bodice, those ribbons. She came from finery. She must miss it. So you give her a brooch. It's finely wrought and delicate but strong. Like her, you think. Like she must be. The brooch is bright, not yours. You think your mother might have left it here? It's hard to read the child's face, but you think she likes it. But then, a second time, you come home and find her as before, curled up, unbreathing. An ivory comb in her scalp's already formed. And this time, she will not be calmed or docile, will not be guided to the hearthside. No, she runs. Faster than a deer, she runs as you stand dumbstruck, watching the forest swallow her back up. The dwarves were right, that there was trouble brewing in the kingdom of Valdereich. Some time ago, the king had been called away to the eastern steppes, serving under the Khan of the Horsefolk in repayment for marrying Briar Rose without producing an heir by his first wife. The marriage treaty was not to be trifled with. It was so long-standing that Valdereich's royalty were effectively horsefolk themselves. And in the king's absence, Briar Rose had been left in charge. She was not a wicked queen as such, but she was not popular. The harsh winter had left the people starving and short-tempered, and she had done very little to help. There was a rebellion coming. And among the royal court, the king's uncle, a duke, had been spreading rumours that she was a witch, a succubus, a curse bringer, and a death dealer. And if only by coincidence, some of these rumours were true. But the cautious duke would not strike against the queen until he had the support of the peasants' revolt, at least for long enough to safely install himself on the throne. And so, on this grey spring afternoon, here he stands, in a village square at the edge of the great forest. The revolt leader, Jack the Giant Killer, has insisted on a public meeting, and so the Duke and his retinue face a restless crowd of common people. His attempts to convince them of his merits as a leader are not working. And so he returns to castigating the queen. She's not just a tyrant, she's mad. All she does is lock herself away and rave at her reflection while around her, villagers like you starve. And the entire court knows she had her own daughter murdered out of jealousy for her beauty. And then, from the edge of the woods, in stumbles Snow White, bedraggled, muttering, wild-eyed. And among the crowded peasantry, a wave of recognition. That cloth is spun oak moss from the fairy weavers. That brooch bears the symbol of Our Lady of the Woods. The mood turns hushed, reverent, and then a wave of people dropping to their knees. The Duke recognizes her at once, sends his men to prop her up, give her water, take her to his tent. A servant tips him off. The local woodland god, of all things, seems to have somehow touched the princess. The simple folk here revere the Green Lady beyond all others. And at once the Duke knows what to do next. Awake at last. She looks unwell, so pale. Deep shadows round her eyes. Now, how would you like to be queen? Your voice is velvet. Her eyes widen just a touch. You smile, go on. You saw how the people adored you. The girl's hand creeps to her brooch. Ah! I don't care how you came by that. What matters is you've given them a symbol, a banner to fight beneath. She nods. You lean in closer, confidential. I know your mother hurt you. We could bring her to justice. Her eyes squeeze tight, reopen wet. She nods again. Your first battle's won. Astride your horse, you address the crowd. Snow White sits within a palanquin and listens as you tell them how Our Lady of the Woods has blessed your noble quest to make this kingdom right again. Guided by the wisdom of the lady, this little child will lead them. Their eyes flicker between you and her. The girl sits up straight, addresses them. It is my honor to have been chosen to lead you. May the lady grant us victory and reveal to me which path to take. Good. Just as you wrote. The girl looks healthy. More so than ever. Less plagued by nightmares now, her servants say. I knew you were more than just some fragile forest lily. There's strength in you, child. She gives a smile, the first you've seen from her. Next day, she comes to you with eyes aflame. Teach me. I want to ride and fight. This sudden spirit pleases you. Good. It's in your blood. Not even that primping Christian witch who birthed you can take away your father's line. And among our people, women lead armies. Privately you think, how useful. Every time you cross swords, Snow White seems more alive. Blood rising in her like tree sap in spring. She's learning fast. Her movements grow fluid, her words get looser. You talk. She has tall tales of dwarves. You tell her stories of the steppes back home, as she learns to take a steady-handed shot on horseback. Her new light armor, leather, lacquered, lined with silk, is no encumbrance. Her high-plumed helmet makes her grin each time she puts it on. Now there's my warrior queen, you say. Meanwhile, your men are subtly taking towns, using swords when words won't do, and you're left trying to calculate. Can you keep this a simple coup? Or is it all-out revolution? Civil war? Open war. It's Snow's first real battle. With a raised sword, she issues your commands as if they were her own, whispered in her ear by your squire to make her look the leader's part. You keep her safe behind a wall of swords. She's too valuable a symbol to lose. She lands few strikes, but takes pride in each. You return to camp victorious. As the year marches onward, your power grows. A rising tide behind Snow White, rightful queen, light of the woods. The people love her, exactly as planned. And then you find her dead. What? Not yet! You needed her for longer. Her meal is left abandoned, meat and cheese uneaten, wine unsipped. And an apple, with a single bite, fallen, forgotten, beneath her bed. You can salvage this. You're certain you can salvage this. You make a shrine, glass coffin, her name in gold. You pledge to fight on in her memory, and you will, with heavy heart, take the burden of being king, if the Green Lady wills it. Your thoughts race, how to fake another miracle. Her beauty does not wane. She looks not dead, but sleeping. People talk of dwarves, hidden, guarding the coffin. You pay them little mind at first, but then the worry comes. What if there's something in this Lady of the Woods? And then you find your fears confirmed. She's missing. The coffin gone, no word of where. There's no time to seek her. Today we lead the final strike. The last battle. You're winning. And sudden as the wind, she is beside you. Snow White. Her burial dress replaced with armor. Strange armor. Silver chainmail, spectral spiders weaving it as she moves. And a cloak of leaves. She seems consumed by some strange passion. Hair tangled, eyes fixed on a world unseen, and her voice that calls out orders without your leave echoes with the certainty of ages. She has never looked more like a queen than now. And you storm the palace. Your soldiers swarm across it. All is chaos and fury. And then the queen steps out. Briar Rose. Her face is thin and seems to flicker between youth and age. As though there is a second battle, she is also losing. Will she surrender or make a stand? It doesn't matter. Take her down! Kill her! But within a second, no! Snow's voice rings out and all will listen. Take her alive! And how can you hope to contradict her? Everyone knows that she is the leader, the one whose sacred visions guide your path. You boil with resentments, but acquiesce. And now, at last, it's time to hear Snow White's side of this story. Blood. Ebony. Snow. The put of those red drops was the first stirring of your heartbeat. She built your bones of trees, filled out your flesh with snow, set her own blood running in your crystal veins. Another finger prick. You were fragile at first. She kept you away from firesides, kitchens, her own warm breast. You might have melted. Instead, you played together in the orchard, learned to shape snow to apples, throw them, laugh. As you grew, you were your mother's shadow. The court chuckled to see you trailing at her skirts. They did not know where else you followed her, what paths your tiny feet tapped out. The first time, you were 2 years old. In her arms, she cradled you. You closed your eyes and opened them in a new landscape. A castle you had never seen before. A world that brimmed with blood and roses. This way, good girl, she softly says, and again you follow her, down a path of briars. You stumble, they descend and rip. When you stand, she is gone. You are here, remote and lost. The lacerations on your skin are nothing. You feel nothing. And this now is your sleeping home. When dreams come, it is only this. Sometimes you find her here already, bleeding, fallen. She turns to you with desperate, thankful eyes, takes your hand, and disappears. Alone again. You feel nothing. 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 Oh, your mother was a clever one, passing on the burden of her blood to something not quite real, not quite alive. And she would thrive now the curse rested too on your small shoulders. She found her way back to the waking world more often, learned at last to be a queen. And oh, she had plans for you. When you were old enough, when your body began to beat with its own blood, your heart, consumed, would quench her need for other spells. She would be pure and radiant, made whole. She was certain it would work. 13 years old and uncorrupted. The day your chambermaid found a red spot on the white sheets of your bed was the day she knew it. You made your own blood now. You were alive enough for this to work. She plied you to her closet, prepared her ritual. The circle opened. But she couldn't do it. Her hand shook, she dropped the knife, and cursed herself for her weakness, that she could not kill a thing, that she knew to be no more than a witch's puppet brought to life. But there was something in your eyes that stopped her. You looked too real, too human now. The huntsman then, he'd kill you. But no. You ran to the dwarves. Slowly, slowly, you were becoming. The first time the past caught up with you, you were unprepared. Hooded and robed, a woman who might have been your mother if she didn't look so old. A pretty thing like you deserves some pretty clothes. Here, try this. And the bodice grips you like a blacksmith's vice, wrenching the air from your lungs. You wake to blood and roses. You wake again. Day has turned to night. Dwarves mill round you in concern. And in the palace, the circle now opened could not be closed without you. Blood has ceased to nourish her. Nothing left will halt her withering. And so she turns to mirror magic, conjures herself a fresh skin insubstantial as air, while beneath she feels her body sag and creak. The second time, you know it's her. She'll brush your hair. Half your heart is screaming no, but you sit. The long, slow strokes. Hypnotic. Good girl. And then the comb digs in. You fall. You wake. You wake again. You flee. You find the Duke, become his figurehead, and he your mentor. You learn to ride and fight. You are becoming. This time, you don't suspect a thing. A servant brings you in a tray. You don't recall her face. Before your teeth have crushed the fresh, red white of apple, you fall like a stone and wake in that other world. The stench of blood and roses shocks you, fills your head. Everywhere, briar thickets, gnarled and vicious. One snaps out at you, scratches. You flinch at the pain. This is new. You feel something. But you are not afraid. With a gentle hand, as if to calm your horse, you reach, touch palm to bark. Hot like heart's blood, beating with a pulse. You feel it growing cool beneath your touch. When you trail a hand in the bleeding river, blood turns to ice. It melts as water. Raise your hands to the heavens and you bring snow. This place, you can soothe it, rebuild it, careful, new and clean. You bring a winter to this world and shock it into spring. Each thawed leaf and bud returns as green. Sometimes, always far away, you see a figure struggling through the parts that still grow wild. It has to be your mother. You do not find her. But someone else is here besides. Her smile falls on you like sunlight. You catch the scent of loam and leaf. My sons speak well of you, a voice that comes like summer rain on leaves. Though you may have early taken it in vain, you, child, are not unworthy to bear my name. You turn and see her gesture to the greenness you brought. Far greener are her eyes. A woman made of bark and moss and growing things, her skin alive with mushrooms, berries, beetles. You kneel. My lady. She sighs, a hollow woodwind sound. I know whose blood you bear. I know whose pain passed down to you. I knew her well. Once, she was first among my lovers. You gasped, my mother was. No. I speak of the night fairy. This place is drenched with her. When she lost her sisters, she could not bear it. Her vengeance on the king fell to Briar Rose. She passed on her suffering, her blood, through the spindle's point. And now it falls to you. Her weathered face cracks into a smile. And yet you tend this place, and it consumes you not. You are stronger than you know. Questions well up in your throat, but before you can speak them, child, you are leaving the forest now. I will grant you gifts that follow you, but you must remember, I help unhappy brides. Her urgent voice echoes, then nothing. She is gone. Time cools around you. Your work goes on. But now, the sky is cracking open like a sheet of ice. You are trapped, arms pinned to sides. You are awake. A glass coffin shattered around you, a carriage on its side, an injured horse, a lump in your throat, a tang of apple. You cough it up, spit. You sit up. Glass fragments fall like stars from your hair. All of a sudden, earnest amber eyes lit with hunger. A man in princely garb kneels passionately at your side. My dearest, my darling, my most beautiful girl, oh, how often I have kissed thy lips and longed to see thee awake. He leans towards you. With unforeseen strength, you sweep his arm aside. Stand. Struggle. Shaking but alive. You stop a second, stare at him. Bile rises in your throat. You turn and run, barefoot, back towards the woods. A ghostly stag in armor at the threshold. The lady's gifts. Battle sounds ring in your head, and this time her voice does guide you. You have shed your girlishness like snakeskin. You have been young and gentle, but you will be fierce now. You are blood, ebony, snow. Alive, strong, cold, this battle will be yours. And so it is. Until you see her, Briar Rose, the architect of all your pain, and yet your ready arrow trembles in your hand as once a knife did in hers. Wait! Take her alive! The Duke's men cannot refuse. The remains of the battle are a blur. You take the castle. Your mother led away in manacles. You have returned to your childhood as a conqueror. Every wall and window seems to frown at your betrayal. There will be a coronation, but not yet. The Duke has plans to persuade the few remaining loyal that Briar Rose is mad, unfit to rule, that her daughter bears the right by blood, but for the meantime he will serve as advisor, regent, until the girl grows up. You look upon your mentor with new, suspicious eyes. He has less time to teach you swordplay now. The well of his smiles is running dry. How many days have passed? Not yet a week, when the prince comes with his men. You are summoned. You cannot meet his gaze. I see from her blush she recognizes you. The prince replies, "It's good to see such color in her cheeks." He turns to you and breathes, "Snow White, I must apologize. Please know that I was so enraptured by your beauty, I could not live without you, even in your apparent death." You look up. His eyes flash copper in the firelight. If you could grant a poor, besotted man one wish, I long to undertake a more traditional courtship. You are frozen. The Duke says smoothly, "Understand the girl is very young, just turned 16. Allow her maiden's modesty some time." You ask to be excused. Once out of sight, you run, bare feet slapping on the stairs. Curled small at your window, you wonder at the fire that overcomes you, leaves you shaking. Something has shifted in you since the coffin. You do not remember feeling things this strong. The prince visits you every other day. You are chaperoned, primly silent as he consumes you with his eyes. Folk discuss your marriage as if already done. The Duke congratulates you. Prince Reynard is a well-bred man. And so, when the question comes, the answer is not yours to give. Yes is already written in the ledger of your fate. Your word simply a formality. Reynard leaves for his homeland, Calverne, soon to return with a retinue befitting a prince and his bride. Your courtiers are abuzz, Calvernian gowns are the finest ever made, their wines most rich, their music most sweet, and after the wedding, oh, you'll love it there. Wait, you're not going to leave, this is your home. How will the lady guide you if you're gone? And then you understand the plan. You'll go, the Duke will stay. He'll profess the throne's still yours, but you can't claim it and rule from far away. You imagine his voice. Who am I to stand in the way of young love? You're bought and sold, a piece in his game. You feel that shaking fire again, and now you recognize it. Rage. You have never wanted things before, but now you know with clarity you want the woods, your horse, your sword. Not Calverne. And not Prince Reynard. There is something in his eyes that frightens you. The season brings green shoots. You are absent from the castle. You ride atop the hillsides. Forest covers them like moss. Your homeland's heart, old trees and older magic. You have not seen the lady since you woke, nor have you seen your mother. When Snow White, still clad in her riding gear, goes down to the castle jail to visit her mother, she finds her sleeping fitfully. Briar Rose wakes with a start, scrabbles back against the wall, hands over her eyes, will not respond when Snow speaks to her. The second time Snow visits her, she finds Briar Rose awake already, wild-eyed and ashen. With fear and wonder in her voice, she says, "You look just like your father." And it's true. Once, Snow's skin had been milky white with eyes black as night, but now her skin is brown, smattered with freckles, her eyes a rich, warm chestnut. This shouldn't be possible. Do you remember what you are, how you were made? I remember enough, I think. There's nothing of him in you. You are my blood, not his. Then I suppose family is more than blood. Snow turns to leave a second time. Wait! It wasn't meant to be like this. You weren't supposed to hurt or understand. You weren't meant to be real. I didn't make you a real girl. Then I suppose I made myself real. Snow turns to leave. And family is more than blood. Briar Rose sinks to her knees. Kill me. Snow turns. What? Kill me. I deserve it. I've ruined your life. Please, kill me. I can't sleep. Not real sleep. I haven't slept for more than a century. Please, End this, kill me, and let me sleep. Snow's hand creeps to her dagger. No. No! How dare you! You did all of this, and now you want to just sleep? No, death for you would be a gift, not a punishment. You will live, and you will atone, and you will suffer like I have. No! I am done being everyone's puppet! She turns and runs, tears slipping down her skin like shed snakeskin. The third time Snow visits, she's frantic. Prince Reynard is due to return any day. The Duke has kept her indoors, away from the forest. She clings desperately to her memory of the Green Lady's voice. I help unhappy brides. There is nothing left in the castle to comfort her, and so, instinctively, despite her better judgment, she seeks her mother. This time Briar Rose is calm and the first to speak. It was you, wasn't it? In the other world. I saw you. You turned things green, washed away the blood. Yes. Even after everything I did to you. Yes. I have to say sorry. Again. I'm not going to ask anything else of you. I have something to ask. Why didn't you just kill me? You had the chance 3 times. Why the bodice and the comb and the apple? Briar Rose stares at her daughter, realization dawning as she speaks. I didn't want to. Not when I saw that you were real. So I thought if I could just send you back there, put you to sleep, it would keep me out of it. I could have time and clarity. I could find another way for both of us. I've been thinking too. I deserved none of what you did to me. And your pain was never my burden to carry. But I don't want any more suffering for anyone. I want you to atone, but I want you to heal too. And so I choose to end this. Not with vengeance, but with kindness. Snow leans in and kisses her mother gently on the forehead through the bars. And at last, the curse is broken. Not quite by the gift of kindness the last fairy had envisioned, nor quite the true love's kiss she had hoped for, but a choice. To be truly loving in the face of pain and cruelty and old inherited grief, and to hope for better things. And although neither of them know it yet, Briar Rose will ravel back the years until she is her true age. And neither she nor Snow White will ever walk that twisted landscape of blood and roses again. This is the beginning of another story, but one to be told another time. And so I thank you all for listening and pronounce this the end.
or bring her the wine that you brewed in her name. Sleep in the woods with green moss for your bedding, and breathe in the wildness where once you were tame. Sing, 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 the lady of the woods, let us travel safely to you, O lady of the woods. Come all ye women who life has left weeping, O come all ye widows and maidens and wives. Come if your husbands are not worth the keeping, or come if you pray that your love will survive. Come if you're lovesick and crave a resolution. Come if your heart beats for women like you. A forest dead lady shall bring restitution to all those who seek her if their hearts be true. Sing, 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 the lady of the woods, accept the gifts we bring you, O lady of the woods. Sometimes she'll smile and her bright eyes will glisten as she shows you the way to your intended's heart. And sometimes her face will turn grave as she listens, and firmly she tells you you're better apart. But whether she offers you magic and laughter, or unhappy truths, it's of no use to plead. The lady will not change her wisdom thereafter, for she does not grant wishes, she answers your need. Sing, 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 the lady of the woods, giving thanks we leave you, O lady of the woods. Sing, 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 the lady of the woods, giving thanks we leave you, O lady of the woods.